Cikgu Najima, boleh mula sekarang ya?
Okay. Assalamualaikum and a very good afternoon. I bid to all the SPM candidates out there. I'm Teacher Najima and my co-teacher for today is Teacher Sitra. And we will be giving you some tips, techniques and strategies on how to answer Paper 1, Section A. Yes, today's focus will be Paper 1, Section A. Section A, I'm referring to directed writing, which will take up 45 minutes of Paper 1. In order to answer Paper 1, the following are the types of essays that you need to know. Article, report, speech or talk, formal letter, and informal letter. I'm sure by now all of you are very familiar with all these types of essay. Okay, in order to answer these types of essay, for directed writing, the first thing you need to know would be the format. Why? Because format gives 3 marks. You must know the format of an article, talk or speech, informal letter, formal letter, and a report. For today's discussion, I will be focusing on trial paper from the state of Perlis. And as you can see, the layout of this paper is exactly what you have been seeing so far in your SPM directed writing, in your papers, exam papers so far for directed writing. Okay, there's one thing that you must remember, that in the question paper, everything that is given in the question paper is important. Section A, directed writing, that gives you the title. 35 marks, that means you are looking at 35 marks for this section. And we are looking at 45 minutes, which is the time suggested. If you look at this particular sentence, you took part in an English Language Week program organized by the English Language Department of your school. Write a letter to your cousin who lives in another town about the event. What is this? This is what we call instruction. Remember, instruction is very important. Before you do anything, make sure you read the instruction very carefully. These are very important too. In your letter, include the following: details of the program. Each of these means 1 mark. And these are what we call content points. Each of these content points must be included in your essay. You must make sure you don't leave any of it out. Why? Because you are actually giving away your marks. When writing the letter, you must lay out the letter correctly. Address, salutation, closing. Develop all the points given. Provide your own ideas when needed. Remember that your letter is to your cousin. What do we call all this? These are reminders. And allow me to remind you that these reminders are very important. Why? Because these reminders are indirectly telling you what is needed for the format. I will show you in a minute. What about the last part? Note, for your letter, you will receive up to 15 marks for the format and content points and up to 20 marks for the quality of your writing. What do we call this? This is what we call allocation of marks. That means 15 marks is it should be with you, because if you do it correctly, 15 marks is in your hands, while 20 marks is for your language. Now, when you read your question, read the reminder carefully, because address, salutation, and closing. These 3 are indirectly your format marks. You need to have address to get F1, which is format 1. You need to have salutation, which is for F2, and you need to have a proper closing for F3. That is why the reminders given are there to help you to do well in your section A. As I've mentioned earlier, format is 3 marks and content is 12 marks. That means 15 marks is in your hands. It's already there for you to take, but you need to make sure you do it well and you do it correctly. When we talk about format, it is very important that we understand that format, one thing good about English language paper is you don't have to memorize. As I said, the reminders are there to help you, but you need to know where should the title be, where should the purpose be, and where should the signature be. Now, for article, the title will be in the middle and you will get F1 for that. For F2, you need to make sure that you have the purpose of writing the article. How do I know the purpose? Refer to the question. I will give you an example in a minute. And it must be in the first paragraph. Purpose must be in the first paragraph. Why? Because the purpose will tell the reader why you are writing this article, why you are writing this report, why are you writing this formal letter, why are you writing this informal letter. So the purpose will lead the reader to understand what is coming up next. Okay? And when you come to content points must be written in paragraphs. You must make sure that you break up the content points so that you have paragraphs. If we have 12 content points, then you can have 4 content points in paragraph 2, 4 content points in paragraph 3, and another 4 content points in paragraph 4. So make sure that your content points are written in paragraphs. And for report is usually you writing to somebody. So in the question itself, it will be stated, who do you write it to? So for report, make sure you have the to. The example I'm giving here is to the principal, SMKL Bukit Bintang. So here, 1 mark will be given. As for the title, it must be in the middle. All right, you will be given F2. The purpose must be stated in the first paragraph, and the report written by, signature, name, and designation. What is the meaning of designation? Usually, in the question, it would state something like, you are the class monitor of 5 Budi. Okay, so when you write the report, when you end your essay, so signature, write your name, and class monitor of 5 Budi. So that is the meaning of the word designation. Okay, if you want more example of report, you can refer to SPM 2017 question and SPM 2018 question. As for speech or talk, greetings are very important. So make sure you have a greeting because greeting will give you F1. And then again, purpose of writing the speech or talk, which must be in the first paragraph, will give you F2, and a proper conclusion and a thank you. What do I mean by proper conclusion? This means, let me give you an example. I hope my talk today has given you some information about the importance of time management to be a successful student. Thank you. So you must conclude your essay properly before you give your thank you or before you say thank you. All right. So if you need more example of a speech or talk question, you can refer to SPM 2015 and SPM 2016 question. Okay. Formal letter. Okay. When we talk about formal letter, these are some of the aspects that you need to take into account. First, you must make sure that the name and address of the sender is on the left, and then make sure you underline, and then name and position and address of recipient, and then you have a date, okay, which is on the right, and then dear sir or madam, and then subject or heading. If you don't know the subject or heading, refer to the question, because one thing wonderful about section A is there's a lot of help and guidance given. All right. So if you're stuck, just go back to the question. It is there to help you. All right. And then you have your introduction and opening remarks. The body. The body here refers to the content points. Yeah. And then conclusion and closing remarks. And of course, what the writer wants the official to do. Because formal letter, usually you write for a purpose of maybe making a complaint or making a suggestion. So when you conclude, you must make sure you include your personal suggestions, what you expect out of the letter. I hope this letter will get the necessary feedback from the management in charge or the management. Okay, thank you. So something like that. So you must make sure that you include some form of suggestion, all right, in the formal letter before you conclude. All right. Next is the informal letter. Now, for informal letter, again, the address and date, okay, would be on the right. So sender's address. And then you have dear, because usually informal letter, you write to people that you know. Okay, your friend, your cousin, your sister, your brother. So, dear bro, dear sis, okay, is accepted because it is also a salutation. All right. And again, purpose. I've been mentioning this quite frequently because students forget. Yeah, the candidates sometimes forget. Purpose of writing the letter must be mentioned in the first paragraph, and then you have content points which are in paragraphs. Okay, so that becomes the body, and then conclusion. Okay, conclusion means I hope to hear from you soon. Something like I hope this letter will get a reply from you soon. Okay, thank you. Something like that. Okay, so the conclusion must be there, and then you sign off. Okay, your friend, your cousin, your sister, or your brother. Okay, now we come to the question paper. As I've mentioned just now, I'm using the question paper from the state of Perlis. Okay, so here, section A, directed writing, 35 marks. So time suggested 45 minutes. You took part in an English language week program organized by the English language department of your school. Write a letter to your cousin who lives in another town about the event. Okay, now if you look carefully, the instruction clearly, okay, states the format to use. So you're going to use a letter. The format that you're going to use is a letter. What type of letter? So you are writing to who? Your cousin. So the letter that you're going to write is an informal letter. All right. Now, instruction clearly states the purpose of the essay. So why are you writing to your cousin? Because you want to tell your cousin about the event. What event are we talking about? About the English Language Week program organized by the English Language Department of your school. So here, the instruction clearly tells you the format to use and the purpose. That's why if you remember just now, I said the purpose, if you don't know, go back to the instruction. It will help you. All right. And whether you believe it or not, actually, the instruction also helps you to start your essay. What do I mean by that? Let's look at the next slide. Okay, this is the question. You took part in an English language week program organized by the English language department of your school. Write a letter to your cousin who lives in another town about the event. Okay, so here I go. I change you to I. I took part in an English language program organized by the English language department of my school. I am writing this letter to share about the event with you. So here I have my introduction and I also have my purpose. And this is done only in 2 sentences. So it's okay. There's no problem. You don't have to write a very long introduction. As long as you have an introduction and you have the purpose, we are fine. Okay, so there's no reason for you not to write directed writing. Okay, candidates out there, please take note. Everything is there. It will help you. Okay. All right. Now let's look at the content points. Now, when you get your question paper, other than reading the instruction, you also need to pay attention to the content points. Okay, let's look at this one. Details of the program. Duration. C1. Venue. C2. Objectives. Encourage the use of English. C3. Own idea. C4. Participation. C5. Activities. Spelling bee. C6. Public speaking. C7. Own idea. C8. Benefits. Instill confidence. C9. Own idea. C10. One incident you will never forget. C11. Your opinion on how the program can be improved. C12. So this is one of the things you can do when you get your question paper. Make sure you write your C's. Why? So that you can remind yourself which C you have used in your essay and which C is still waiting for you to take it to the essay. All right? So make sure you take note, and this is one of the way of doing it. once you get the question paper, write your C1, C2 up to C12 and maybe C13, because there are years where only 12 content points are given, but there are also years where 13 content points are given. Okay, how do I know it is a content point? All right. So, okay, there are content points that needs your response. For example, duration, venue. These are content points, but it's not given to you clearly. So it needs your response. You need to decide what you are going to write when it comes to duration. Okay? Now, whatever your response is, it must be suitable to the situation given. All right? You must remember that. Okay. The next one would be very direct. Okay? Very direct. Encourage the use of English. So it's there. And the other one is your own idea. One incident you will never forget. So this is something that you have to think and come up with a possible, relevant, suitable response. Okay. Let me give you an example. Duration, which is a C1. So what should you do? Decide on the duration that is suitable for an English language week. And then use the response or use the answer to write out the content point. You must remember that content points must be written, you must write out the content points in sentences. Okay, it must be in sentences. Of course, you can combine the content points. I will show you one example later, but you cannot do too much of it. You cannot combine too many content points. Okay, you need to show your teacher or the examiner that you can actually construct sentences. Okay, so here is an example of the sentence. The English Language Week was organized for 5 days. Okay, so have I mentioned the duration? Yes, I have, for 5 days. So I will get my C1 and I will get my tick. All right, so done. I've already written my content point 1. Okay, now let's look at the next one. Objective. Okay, objective, 2 objectives were given there. One is to encourage the use of English and the other one was own idea. So, to encourage the use of English, which is directly given, okay? So, my sentence would be, one of the objectives of the English Language Week is to encourage the use of English. Okay, so I have used the content point, encourage the use of English. So, I secure my C3 and I get a tick for that and I also get my very good. Okay, now, let's see. Objective 2, which is my own idea. As I've mentioned just now, whatever idea you decide to write must be relevant to the situation given. So this is my sentence. The program also helps us to motivate each other to speak in English language. Okay, so my C4. Okay, and I get a tick. And I get a good. All right. Now, let's continue with a question that is very common, okay? Can I combine my content points? Teacher, can I combine my content points? Yes, you can combine your content points. But remember, as I mentioned just now, you can combine your content points, but don't combine too many content points in one sentence. Because if you do that, your teacher or the examiner would not be able to see your language, how good you are with your language, okay? So here, I give you an example. There are many interesting activities such as spelling bee and public speaking. We were also very excited about the singing competition. All right. So here, spelling bee, public speaking, okay, and singing competition. So singing competition is my own idea. So I have C6, I have C7, and I also have my C8. So here, I already get my 3 marks. Okay, now, can you change the order of the content points? This is also a very common question, yeah? Can I move the content points around? Okay. Yes, you can. Okay, let's say you want to use the objectives first. When you start off with your essay, you want to use the objectives first. Okay, you may. That means you are taking out C3 and C4 to be put as the first 2 content points. Then you feel you want to bring in activities. Activities, you want to mention objectives and then you want to talk about the activities before you talk about the duration and the venue. You can do that. But remember, the moment you move your content points around, you must take note of what are the content points that are waiting for you, all right, to be taken and to be written. The problem that occurs sometimes is that students get very stressed that they just want to finish off, and because they have reordered everything, they tend to miss out some of the content points. So if you ask me, so teacher, what should I do? My suggestion would be to just follow the order. But if you are somebody who likes to arrange your content points so that it flows nicely with what you are writing, you may do so. But my advice to you again would be to take note the content points that are waiting for you to be included in the essay. Okay. What about elaboration and example? Is it important? Yes. Okay. I mean, it is important. Elaboration and example will help you in the language aspect of section A. But for those of you out there who are not very confident about writing too many sentences, then it's okay. Okay, you can write minimal sentences as long as the content points are there. That is what is important. Okay, what is important is the content point. Elaboration and example is to help you with the language part of language aspect of section A. So, do I have to elaborate every content point? No, you don't have to. And do I have to give examples for every content point? No, you don't have to. But if you have a good command of the language and you have enough time, I repeat, you need to keep track of your time. So if you have enough time, then you can spend that time to elaborate and give examples for all the content points given. But if you don't have enough time, don't panic, because it's not a compulsory aspect. I mean, it's not compulsory for you to elaborate every content point or give example to every content point. Okay? Okay. Allow me to give you an example of elaboration and one content point with elaboration and example. Okay. Benefits, yeah? Instill confidence, which is C9. One of the benefits of participating in English Language Week is it would help to instill confidence. Confidence gives us the positive energy to take action to achieve our personal goals and dreams. Okay, so instill confidence is directly there. Okay, so I will get my C9, and confidence gives us the positive energy to take action to achieve our personal goals and dreams. This is what we call elaboration. So you have, for this content point, you have made a sentence for the content point, and you have also given an elaboration for that particular content point. The next one is own ideas, which is C10. Okay. The activities planned for the week made me realize that some of my friends are very talented. So my own idea here, my best friend Adam is a very talented singer, especially in singing pop, rock, and rap genres. Okay, so here I have my C10. Okay, and I have given some a short elaboration, and I've given some examples to prove that my friend Adam is a talented singer. So C9 I have elaboration, C10 I have elaboration and example. Okay, so here comes my tick. Right? Okay, now for paper 1, I think all of us know by now that it is a 1 hour and 45 minutes paper, and it includes section A and B. So A and B is 1 hour and 45 minutes. Therefore, time management is very important, because if you miss out on the time, let's say you take up too much time with section A, and that will give you less time for section B. And some candidates, they like to start with section B first, okay, and then move on to section A. The thing is, if you start with section B and you get carried away writing a section B, there is a high possibility that you will miss a lot in section A. All right, so you must remember that time management is very important. Okay, 45 minutes is given for section A. So there is some form of time management in terms of how much time you must take for preparation. Okay, how long would you write out the essay, and how long would you take to go through the essay? But generally, I think most candidates, they won't really go through the essay, because by the time they stop, it's already enough time and they have to move on to section B. Okay, so these are some of the steps that you can take from now because SPM is next month, so you still have time. So one of the you need to do a lot of practice, and you can start by analyzing the question by circling all the important words, and then you can understand, and then you need to understand the requirement of the question. Remember to go through the question just like I went through just now, part by part, line by line. Okay, and then identify the content points. Exactly what I did just now. You write out your C's, C1, C2, all the way to C12 or C13. Okay, and then don't forget to read the reminders. The reminders will help you. The reminders will indirectly tell you your format marks. So reminders are very important. Okay, and prepare an outline. Decide on the content points that you want to elaborate or give example. Now, when I say prepare the outline, please don't write out the essay with a pencil first, and then you want to transfer again with a pen. No, you don't have time. Okay, what I mean by outline is go through the content point, then maybe you can decide, okay, I'm going to elaborate C3, I'm going to elaborate C4, I'm going to give example for C5. So write out at the side, okay, what are the things that you're going to write? That is all. Just to get you, so that you know what you're going to write. But that's all, not to write out the whole essay and then write again using a pen. You don't have time. Okay, candidates out there? Okay. Lastly, you write out your essay. So when you write out your essay, make sure you keep to your time, okay? And make sure you keep the last 5 minutes to go through the essay. If you don't have much time, the least you could check is make sure you have all the content points. If you're not very sure whether your sentence is correct, whether you're not sure whether that you have used the correct tenses, okay? The least you could check and go through is the content point. You just tick and then you erase. You take, make sure, oh, okay, I have my C1, I have my C2, I have my C3. Once you have all the content points, then make sure you erase lah. Okay, make sure the paper is clean, so that the examiner can do the work of identifying the content points. Okay, all right. Okay, now comes language part. Okay, language is 20 marks. Okay, it's quite a big chunk, and of course you need some guidance. Okay, today, so I would like to call upon teacher Citra, who will help you with the language aspect of section A. So teacher Citra, the session is yours.
Hi, Sitira.
Hi, can you see me?
You can see you already. Can you please your slide? We cannot see your slide.
Okay, why?
Alright,
Yes,
okay.
can.
Please.
Now can?
Slideshow. Yes.
Okay.
Okay, you may
Hello?
start now.
All right. Hello. Thank you, Teacher Najima, and sorry for the short delay. There was some technical problem here. All right, people. Hello, everyone. All right, I'm going to deal with language marks today. Now, for directed writing, our language mark is 20 marks, and it is divided into 8 band descriptors. Yeah, we have band A, band B, band C, and then D, E, U1, U2, and U3. I'm not going to go in detail. I'm sure the candidates will know about this. Teachers would have explained to you all, or you would have probably seen these band descriptors. Yes, but what I would like to do is, let's take a look at one of these band descriptors. I've selected band C, and I've highlighted a few important words here. Accurate, structures, vocabulary, intended meaning, sentences, punctuation, spelt, paragraphs, unity, relevance, tone, style and tone, and so on. Now, these are the important band descriptions that we are going to look at. Yeah. Because these are the one that where marks are allotted for. When we are giving marks, we are looking at all these things in your essay. All right, let's look at one sample question. This is a 2012 sample question. Your younger sister is studying overseas. You have decided to write a letter to advise her on how to spend her money wisely. Now, and this is the content list. We have content 1 to 12. Earlier on, they used to give you all the content points. But nowadays, there are at least 2 or 3, like how Teacher Najima showed you. You have to come up with your own ideas. Now, let's look at the reminders here. When writing the letter, you must remember to lay out your letter correctly. Address, greeting, closing. Use all the notes, and remember that your letter is to your younger sister. Now, what I've done is I've highlighted a few words here which you need to do when you're looking at a question, so that when you are writing your essay, you will keep this in mind. Yeah, overseas, advice, layout, younger sister. Now, I'm going to take excerpts of dissected students' essays to show you exactly how marks are given if the response was good, and if it weren't, how marks were given. Yeah. So first, let's look at good responses. Yeah. Now we are going to look in terms of format, introduction or opening remarks. We're going to look at in terms of content, accuracy, sentence structure, vocabulary, organization, punctuation, spelling, and style and tone. These are all very important aspects. And if you remember in the band descriptors, these were all mentioned. Yeah. So, all right, let's look at the first one, format. Now, for the question just now, it was informal letter question. So, okay, obviously the address is here. If you can see very clearly, there are commas too. But right, you should have commas and then a full stop on the last line, followed by the date. Yeah. So we have the address of the writer and the date. If possible, the month should be spelled out. Okay. Now we have address and date. So you get your first format mark. And then we have the salutation or greeting. Now, if you notice, dear Alicia, there's a comma here. This is a good response, yeah? And the student has written capital D, capital A. So there is another format mark given. Now, the last part of the last mark, the third format mark, will be for the signature. Now, you look at how the student has written your loving sister, comma again, and then the signature. So she or he gets another format mark. So all in all the 3 format marks grabbed by the student. It's very good. Now, the layout of the letter is good. The address is here on the right and not on the left. Sometimes students do write all that. So you need to be very aware as candidates sitting for exam, yeah, how your format should be for which section, like Teacher Najima has mentioned earlier. So the format is proper format for a friendly letter. Now let's look at introduction and opening remarks. Now this is an excerpt of a student's work. How are you doing in the land down south of Australia? It has been ages since I last heard from you. Our parents and I are starting to fuss and worry over the little baby of our family. We thank God that we are doing well back here in Malaysia, despite the ever-changing weather condition. Now, this is a proper greeting and, of course, suitable introduction to the talk. Now, if you notice, this response is a good response. Look at the first line. The student has already mentioned Australia. Now, in the question, the student, your sister is staying overseas. So this writer has written Australia and she and her family are back in Malaysia. So very clear from the very beginning. Yeah, this is a good response and this is how you should start your introduction or opening remark. Now, let's look at content. Now, for the content points, there are 12. We have shopping lists, we have necessary items, we have compare prices, we have cheaper brands, we have budget, we have what you can afford, buy during sales, discounts, own cooking, cheaper, leisure time activity, and think about cost. 12 content points here, all up for the grab. Now, you must use all the content points given. You cannot miss out even one. And you use each content point in a proper sentence. If you are unable to write at least one sentence per content point, and you will get all the content marks. Now, those who are able to write well or good writers, please go ahead and elaborate the content points because elaboration is the one that is going to help you with your language marks. All right, so all the contents and the format, you are already up in 15 marks. Now, for the language section, let's look at accuracy. Now, let's look at this excerpt. Moreover, I think you should start doing your own cooking more often. Homemade meals are not only cheaper, it is much healthier too, because you know exactly what ingredients are added into your cooking. Besides, it is a great opportunity for you to learn some independence and shape you into a good wife in the future. One other important advice you should consider is how much you spend on leisure time activities. Remember to stop and smell the roses, all right? Think about the cost and do not take our parents' money for granted. Now, if you notice, this entire piece is entirely correct, if not completely correct. Probably there's one mistake here into becoming a good wife in the future. Probably it's a first draft slip because the student is under constraint or of the time. There is a limited time for the student to write, so he's rushing, so we will tend to overlook. Other than that, the rules of grammar are all followed accurately. And so, meaning is brought forth clearly and effectively to the reader. And in this case, of course, the reader is your examiner. So therefore, you'll fall under the best fit band of the descriptors. Yeah, reader understands the letter, message is passed well, so you get a good language mark. Now, let's look at sentence structure. Furthermore, you should also stick with your budget. Plan how you're going to spend your money for the month and make sure you have some money remaining by the end of the month. My advice to you is restrain yourself from borrowing money from your friends or worse still, loan sharks. Now, this student has a varied and sophisticated sentences here. She did not use simple structures only. Yeah? She has mixed the structures here. So they are good, and not only the sentences are varied and sophisticated, we also have sentence length and type to achieve intended effect. Now, the student has used simple, compound, and complex sentences here. Now, I'm sure students know that in English language, there are only 4 types of sentence structures: simple, compound, complex, and compound complex. Now, at this level, you must know how to use simple, compound, complex, and if possible, compound, complex sentences, if at all your intention is to get very good language marks. Yeah. Now let's look at the sentence structure. What do we mean by the length of sentence? Yeah, it's short sentence and long sentence. Now, short sentences are used to give emphasis, to show sudden events, to grab attention, to summarize main ideas. Whereas long sentences are used to develop tension or to develop the plot of the story, to provide lively descriptions, to reveal information. Now, what happens if you use too many short sentences? Reader is rushed into reading. Yeah, reader is unable to digest what is the message that you're trying to put across, and the whole essay becomes very choppy and jerky. Whereas, what happens when you put too many long sentences? The reader becomes overwhelmed because the reader is unable to understand what you're trying to say, because sentences are long and too many information is found there. So therefore, as candidates sitting for exam, you must know how to use short sentences and long sentences, how to use the sentence structure, simple, compound, compound, complex, and so on and so forth in your writing in order to come up with a good essay. Now let's look at vocabulary. Now, during the festive seasons, there are bound to be sales. This is the time you can wrangle the best deals and get discounts for what you buy. If you have enough to spend, maybe you can treat yourself by buying things you want. It is also cheaper to do your own cooking than eating out, especially when you are overseas. You just have to stock up some ingredients and prepare yourself a simple meal. Maybe your roommate can help you with that too. Now, we notice in this paragraph, the student has got some good vocabulary and used precisely too, where necessary. You cannot simply use any vocab anywhere you like. You have to make sure that it fits the context and, of course, the lines that you are talking about. Okay, here we can see the student has used wrangle the best deals and stock up. Stock up is a phrasal verb. Okay, phrases are used accurately, therefore meaning is carried across correctly and properly. Yeah, the reader is able to understand and know what the candidate is trying to convey. And of course, in this case, the reader is the examiner. So when the examiner understands it very clearly and easily, of course, your essay will fall into the higher band of language marks. Now, let's look at vocabulary. We were talking about vocabulary. Yes, words are very important. But then again, you have to be very careful that you do not use too many abstract words or jargons or bombastic words. You need to limit them according to the context and, of course, whether it fits the line or the following sentence. There's so many things for you to look at before you can decide to use a word. If possible, use a lot of adjectives because they are more clearer. Let's look at sentences that use weak vocabulary. He ran quickly. She was breathing heavily. Black smoke was coming out of the engine. Now, these are all considered weak because of the vocabulary. Why? If we were to turn them into stronger sentences and change these weak vocab into stronger vocab, he ran quickly becomes he rushed or dashed. Very clear and we can understand. She was breathing heavily, so becomes she was panting. Black smoke was coming out of the engine. Black smoke belched out of the rear of the engine. So this is weaker sentence, this is stronger sentences. If you were to use sentences like this with strong vocab, naturally your language marks will be higher. Now let's look at the organization. Now, first and foremost, do you know what shopping really is? It is not about spending money and buying things. There is a term called window shopping, also known as shop without money. I know that you are a determined shopper. Therefore, create a shopping list consists of only necessary items. You do not have to buy everything, you know. Next, window shopping does not mean that you do not buy anything while you are out and about. It is for you to compare prices to acknowledge brands that are cheaper and acquire the same qualities with what you usually have. Now, in this paragraph, we can see first and foremost, therefore, next. These are all linkers, yeah? This student has used the linkers very well, connecting them from one line to another. So, not only the within the paragraph, but between the paragraphs as well. So, paragraphs are well planned, they have a unity, and they are appropriately linked. An organization of writing is good, and ideas flow well and with a fluency. The reader is able to follow the idea expressed by the writer. Now, we also have linkers are also known as sequential transitions. We also have comparative transitions, contrastive transitions, and summing up transitions. Yeah, I'm sure you'll be able to find out more about these examples. Comparative transitions, when you're comparing one sentence to another. Likewise, similarly, those are some examples. Contrastive will be, however, okay, on the other hand, some examples of contrastive transitions. Summing up transitions, you will have, in summary, or on the whole, in conclusion. Okay, those are all summing up transitions. If you know how to use them well and connect them well from one sentence to another or from paragraphs to paragraphs, your entire essay will have a very continuous flow. Not only that, it will have a sense of cohesion, and the reader will be able to see a logical progression of your thoughts, you as the writer. So when that happens, your essay naturally will be allotted better marks. All right, let's look at punctuation. Now, I'm just going to highlight the punctuation marks here instead of reading the entire excerpt. Now, if you notice, these are some of the punctuations in this excerpt. Now, besides these, we also have other punctuations like brackets, parentheses, semicolon, colon, ellipses, and exclamation mark, and so on. These are all very common. And as candidates sitting for exam, you must know how to use them and when to use them. Now, punctuation is not a small thing. It is important because it can completely change a meaning. Let's look at this example here. Let's eat, comma, grandma. Now, because of this punctuation, the meaning is you are inviting your grandmother to eat together with you. However, if there is no comma, let's eat grandma, it is going to mean like you're suggesting that you want to eat your grandmother. A complete disaster in meaning. So you must take note that punctuation is very important to impart meaning to the reader. All right, let's look at spelling. Now, if you notice this excerpt, furthermore is strongly spelled, and another one is definitely. Now, these are very common words. Yeah, you cannot afford to get the spelling wrong. Now, spelling is important. So at this stage, as candidates of the SPM exam, you need to be aware of words where there are just one alphabet change in spelling. You need to be careful and be aware, and you must learn how to use them. Or you can go and look up commonly misspelled words and get your spelling right so that you do not lose marks because of spelling errors. Now let's look at the style and tone. Now let's read this excerpt. So, dear sister, I really hope that I could stop your habit of spending with these tips. Make sure to apply and do report if you find any difficulties. I have to go and do study hard. Take care of yourself, Amanda. Send my regards to your peers. goodbye. Now, if you notice, this is the conclusion, the ending of the letter, and it is written very appropriately. You can see it's informal, friendly, and warm because the writer is writing to the sister. And you can also get a sense of advice here because that was in the question. You're supposed to advise the sister. So if you can write this way, that means the tone that you want to impart will be able to be received by the reader, which is very important. The reader must get the style and tone that you intend to pass over. Yeah. So style and tone of an essay can actually be created through the use of conciseness of words, word choice, parallelism, voice, and so on and so forth. I'm sure your teachers in school would have told you about this, or you can also find out in more detail from them. Now, we were looking at all the ways of how to get more marks. Now, let's look at errors that we tend to make. It is not the end of the world. We can always learn how to correct our errors. Now, we are going to look at errors that are commonly made in format, content points, accuracy, vocabulary, sentence structure, spelling, style, and tone. Now, it is not the end of the world if you have errors. That is why we are here today to become aware of the errors that we sometimes unknowingly make. And of course, once we know that, we can correct our weaknesses and improve on our errors. Now, let's look at the format again. All right. This is the same thing that we used earlier, if you noticed. But I would like to show you about the format errors too. Now, if you were to write your address this way instead of this, then of course you will not get your format mark. Okay, now that is for address. Now, for salutation, if you were to write instead of Dear Alicia, comma, Alicia who living KL. This is quite similar to the way of writing salutation in Bahasa Melayu letter writing, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, there are a number of students who write this way. So you will not get your format mark if you were to write it this way. Now, for the signature, if you were to just sign without writing your loving sister or your brother, your bro, then you will not get the content, the format mark also. So you will lose out all the 3 format marks. Yeah. Now let's look at content point. Now, this is just an excerpt. You also need to leisure time activities to think about your cost. You must to think this because it is very important. Now, in this excerpt, we can see that the meaning is very unclear, meaning of the content point. That means you will not get the content mark. Probably the student intended to say leisure time activity should not cost too much. So if you want to choose an activity, then you should consider the cost. I think this is what the student intended to say, but instead wrote it this way. So not only she lost out on the content point, you'll also lose your marks in terms of language, which is 20 marks, yeah, big chunk. Now, let's look at another content, the same content point, but used differently. All right. Then you must leisure time activities. You must think about cost. Now, here, the content point is expressed as in question. Now, in the question, leisure time activities, that was one of the content point 11. So the student has taken the whole thing and written it as it is without adding anything else. Yeah, so no effort to make meaning clear to the reader. And it looks like the student has just strung the words together. This is what we mean by stringing of words. Yeah, no meaning comes through, so therefore no content point. Therefore, your language marks also is affected. Now, let's look at the next content point. It's also the same content point. I'm showing you the same content point, but written differently. Yeah, how weak students normally write. Now, leisure time activities. For the last, you must leisure time for more activities. Think about the cost. Okay. Now, we don't know what the student is trying to say here. The point mentioned is not expressed well again. Yeah, meaning is distorted. Earlier we had stringing of words. This one is meaning is distorted. So also no content point marks. And not only that, of course, language marks are also affected. So if your whole essay is written this way, you lose out a lot of content point marks, and you also get you get a low band of language marks. You will fall into that category. So you need to be very careful. You need to make sure that your content points, if you can't write much, at least put them in one sentence, but meaning must come through. All right, let's look at accuracy. Okay. Now, I've just highlighted, let's just look at all the highlighted words in this excerpt. Now, when you notice, we have things, discounts, everything's, so many, thing. Now, this student does not know how to use singular, plural accurately. We can see the error again and again, repeated, singular, plural, error here. Now, another form of accuracy errors are this. Okay, other than that, make a budget of things. Okay, of is wrong here. It should be for. So this student has a problem with preposition as well. Now, let's look at this excerpt. Now here, I have highlighted the word missed, in case you will miss some of it. Now, this is the tense error. It should be MISS without the ED. All right. And one more, perhaps you can looking for cheaper. The correct word should be look. So again, tense error. So this another student here also has problems with tense error. They do not know how to use the tense accurately. Now, let's look at one more excerpt for the accuracy part. Now, one more thing is your own cooking. We can clearly understand that this is an article error. All right. And then here, there is an article missing. It's either or the that can be used here. So this student has problems with article. So when we talk about accuracy, we are talking about accuracy in terms of the rules of grammar. We have seen tense errors, article, prepositional errors, and so on and so forth. So as students who are sitting for exam, you have to be very careful. These are all simple errors that you can avoid in order to get good language marks. All right, let's look at vocabulary. I really hope my advice will help you from spending too much money in the future. We hope to hear your reply soon. Take care. We love you. Now here, the word help is incorrect. We should use prevent. And one more. Here, we hope to hear your reply. This is also not suitable here. Instead, it should be, we hope to receive your reply. So this student clearly has a problem with vocabulary. Now, wrong vocabulary is used. Now, sometimes vocabulary may sound the same, but they have completely different meaning, like this one, your and your. So you need to be aware of such words. You need to understand how to use them, when to use them, so that you do not make a lot of vocabulary mistakes. Now, this happens because of a lack of reading or exposure to the language. You still have about 1.5 months. Those of you who have been reading all this while, continue on, learn to pick up good vocabulary for the use of your essays. Now let's look at this excerpt for another vocabulary errors. Now if you notice, furthermore, you should own cooking at home due to lack of money. There are a lot of advantages for own cooking. Own cooking is more cheaper than outside food and also healthier than outside food. This is because eating food outside probably will have service charge. You can have healthy eating because there is no MSG in your own cooking foods. Now, own cooking is used 4 times already in the same paragraph. Now, this is what we call as repetition. You repeat the same phrase because you do not know how to put it in some other words. Okay, this student has clearly depended on the words given in the question. This is one of the content points. So she has used it everywhere she thought she can use. Now this, when you repeat the same phrase, it becomes very boring. And not only to you as the writer, but as the reader or the examiner who's reading also gets bored. And so it will affect your language marks. You will get boring language marks too. Yeah. So candidates, you need to be very careful. If possible, if you have time to check and change. As long as the meaning is same, the words can be changed. Remember that. All right, let's look at sentence structures. The common errors that we make in a sentence structures. Yeah. First of all, you must have a shopping list for you to write down all the necessary items. In case you will miss some of it, you must always remember that buy the things that you need, not the thing that you want. You must compare the price of the items before you purchase it. This is because different supermarket may charge differently or something. Yeah. Now, what is the error here? The same thing. We have must have, must have, must have. The student has used the same sentence structure to start the sentences. Okay, why? Because probably due to inefficiency in the command of vocabulary or structures. The structures are repeated again and again, so it creates a monotonous effect. The reader becomes bored. Yeah. So how do we write effectively? How do we start writing effectively? Of course, you cannot say we don't know. We have to do something about it. And that is to vary our sentence structure. One way to overcome monotonous effect is to vary our sentence structure in our essays. Now, let's look at this paragraph. I'm giving you a sample of a paragraph first. Let's read. I sat down gratefully on the bench. I noticed an elderly lady trying to cross the road in front of me. She had a huge bag slung across her bony shoulders. She was using her umbrella as a walking stick. She ignored the no crossing sign. She tottered unsteadily onto the road. I was filled with anxiety. I watched her walk slowly across the road. I feared for her safety. Now, in this paragraph, the student has used only simple sentences. All the sentences here are simple sentences. All right. So how do we change it into varied sentence structures so that the information here becomes more interesting? Yeah. Let's look at how we have changed the paragraph. Now, as I sat down gratefully on the bench, I noticed an elderly lady trying to cross the road in front of me. She had a huge bag slung across her bony shoulders and was using her umbrella as a walking stick. Ignoring the no crossing sign, she tottered unsteadily onto the road. I was filled with anxiety as I watched her hobble slowly across the road, fearing for her safety. Now, when we compare paragraph A and paragraph B, which is better? Obviously, paragraph B. Yes. Why? Because of the varied sentence structures. Therefore, paragraph B will get a higher language mark compared to paragraph A. So I'm sure students, you want a high language mark, right? So you need to change your writing to this. Use varied sentence structures. Now let's look at spelling errors. Now I've highlighted the two mistakes here. Third and fourth is pronounced, though if I pronounce according to the writing, it's third and fourth. Now you cannot make this kind of mistakes at this time of uh, of of your exam. Since your exam is coming so close, you should be more careful and beware of these kind of simple spelling errors. Yeah, you can correct them. How? Spelling is not hard. Yeah, it's not difficult at all. You can correct these errors either through the old-fashioned way. You can memorize spelling, yeah, like how we used to do when we were much younger. Or there is another way, that is, we can separate the words according to the syllables, and then we can try and remember the spelling. I think this will be more effective if you were to try. So do not give up, students who have problem with spelling. Now, style and tone of speech. Now let's look at this excerpt. My long worded rant comes to an end, and reflecting back, it seems that it is for the first time that I have returned so many words. In conclusion, I bid you again to bear all that I've said in mind, and if you are reading this in the morning, I bid good day to you. That is all, and farewell. Okay. My, oh my, yeah. This is so very formal. This is a formal ending that this writer has written. Tone is completely not suitable because our essay was a informal letter. This sounds very formal. Okay, too formal and stiff. All right, let's look at what are the things that we need to use for informal writing. Okay, as compared to formal writing. Now, informal, we can use colloquial language, we can use abbreviations, contractions, we can be any person, need not be third person, we can be first person too. We can also use imperative voice, like, you know, do this, do that. We can tell in our writing because we are writing to someone very close to us, whereas in formal writing, we cannot use imperative voice. We can also use active and passive voice in informal writing, whereas in formal writing, we can only use passive voice. Now, in informal writing, we can also use the phrasal verbs, like the example just now. There was a phrasal verb. And our essay can be long, elaborate, and emotional too, because we are writing to someone very close to our heart. And it will be an easy to read essay, unlike the formal writing. Yeah, not only that, we also have some structures that you can follow when you are writing informal letter. I think, instead of it is my opinion, that if you are writing a formal report or something, yes, you can use this. But if you're writing informal, then you have to use I think and so on. Job instead of occupation. Sorry instead of please accept our apologies. To get instead of to receive. Or just a note to say instead of I'm writing to inform you. Now all these are very, very formal. You can use them in formal writings, but not in informal letters. So candidates, you have to take note and understand how to do informal writing, how to write out an informal letter or how to write out a formal report and so on and so forth. Now we have come to the last slide. This is the exam tips. Now, so far we were talking about how to get good marks. How do we get good marks? It is not difficult, but of course there must be an amount of hard work too. Not too much, but you need to put in some work. Yeah, no pain, no gain. Yeah, they say. So first of all, you need to read your instructions and rubrics carefully in any question. Yeah, that you are doing, whatever, either is continuous or directed. And you need to be sure of the format and task that you are told to write. Okay. Use all the content points because content points have content marks which are already there for your take. So you should not lose out on your content points. Your only problem will be your language marks. And use appropriate tone. The tone you will know when you read the instructions and understand the task that you are supposed to do. Now, do not take punctuation lightly. Yes, like the example that I showed you earlier about the let's eat grandma. So, one small punctuation error can cause a meaning disaster. Now, to improve spelling, practice using a dictionary, or you can go on and follow the old-fashioned way where you close your eyes and memorize, or you can also follow the other way where you can break them up in syllables. Now, for good students, you must try to use sophisticated structures and precise vocabulary to fall into the higher language band marks. Yeah, if you want to get good language marks like a B and A, you need to be able to use sophisticated structures, sentence structures like the ones that we did just now, yeah, and sentence length and so on and so forth, and the correct vocabulary. Now, you need to read widely to improve general knowledge, yeah? And not only general knowledge will be improved, you can also improve through reading, you can improve your structures, your vocabulary, your spelling, even your punctuation and the style of writing. All can be improved just through reading. And with all these at hand, you will be able to impart your thoughts clearly from your thoughts to the paper clearly, and the reader will be able to understand clearly too. So it'll be that easy. Yeah, it's only difficult when you do not have this, when you're not able to use structures or vocabulary, or you do not know when to use the punctuation and so on and so forth. So candidates, you need to be aware you still have about 2 months. You can still work on this to improve your essays and to get good language marks. And when you do all this, voila, you get your good marks and you will be successful. All right. So now, I would like to say a very big thank you. And before I end, I would like to wish all of you all the best in your coming exam. Cikgu Najima and I both wish you all the best. Take care, have a good day, and I hope that you have gained some knowledge through this sharing. Thank you.
Perasan dah tadi. Kata Najib tu maksudnya apa? Teacher Sitira, are you still there?
Okey, dia ada. Masuk dia.
Hi,
Hi.
can you see me?
Are you done with the session?
Yeah, come again.
Okey.
Oh, you have done with the session. Okay, thank you so
Yeah,
much.
done already.
Okay.
End dulu.
Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for
Thank you,
participating, for watching.
Okay, thank you, thank you.
Betul. Ha?
Dah habis.
End eh?
Tak ya.
Dia tak ada moderator.
End je. Tak ada moderator.
Tak ada moderator. Susah.